Coco's crafting table. My name is Rachel and Coco is my cat who sometimes likes to come and jump on the table while I'm crafting and have a good look at what I'm doing. I think she's probably sleeping at the moment, but she may well put in an appearance later. I would like to talk to you today and have a chat about my crochet, my new sewing kit, my knitting. I've got a new cast on, and a little bit about playing with watercolours. I've had 2 new books this week, and I've had a new umbrella, and I've visited the garden centre. So, shall we start with my new sewing kit? My new sewing kit. I've taken some photographs and I will show you. It's called Landscape Summer and it's by Louise Nichols. So I'll show you the photographs and then I'll chat to you about it. You're well and enjoying your crafting too. This is what I'm going to make with my new kit. So I've started it, but I haven't got very far yet. I'll just take the needle out because I don't want to lose my needle. So I've started by ironing the piece of lightweight interfacing onto the back of the design, and then I've cut out some of the felt from the templates given, and I've begun to stitch them onto the background. And the background is really interesting because it's made by Louise Nichols, who's a textile designer, and she does her backgrounds with lino cuts and using fabric paint on here, which it does happen to be waterproof, and waterproof, I believe. It does tell you more in the notes that come with it. So I'm going to be doing some embellishments on there. I know I've got to do some French knots, I've got to do some couching, some running stitch, and lots of little applique stitch. So I will look forward to doing that and showing you more as I progress with it. So that is going to be my new sewing kit. Very exciting. We've had some very wet weather here in the UK over winter, and the last few weeks have been nothing but rain, rain, rain. But today is a really nice sunny day. But I must just tell you about my new umbrella. I broke my old umbrella. The wind blew it, not inside out, but it blew towards me, and it kind of bent the spokes. And when I went to put it away after it had dried out, one of them snapped. So I thought, I'm going to have a new umbrella. My other one was a little folding one. I'd had it quite a long time, so I ordered a new one. And it came one day, a couple of weeks ago now, when my granddaughter was here for the day. And we'd been doing lots of sewing. And then my parcel arrived with my umbrella in. Here it is. The first thing I noticed about it was how much bigger it was than the other umbrella I'd had. There's no way that's going to fit in my handbag. But it also has a button to press, and when you take off the cover, it looked very different from my old one because it kind of folds upwards and not the other way as I was expecting it to. Now I'm not going to press the buttons today, but when it came, we were indoors in the kitchen, and I said to my granddaughter, oh, look at this, I'm going to press the button to make it go up. I said, stand well back. So she went and sat down on one of the chairs, and so I held it like this and I pressed the button. Well, it went boom. It made us both jump out of our skin. My poor granddaughter nearly fell off the chair she was sitting in, and thankfully I was holding it miles away. It was much bigger than my old umbrella, and it was just so unexpected. I don't think it made a big noise, but just the way it opened will take a bit of getting used to. And then the other button on there, you press it to make the umbrella fold again. And we were both quite amazed by this umbrella, and I'm a bit scared of it, to be honest, because I think if I went outside with it and I'm walking along in the rain, and what would happen if I inadvertently pressed the button? Would it all collapse in on my head? It might not, because it folds up at the ends. I just hate the thought that it might trap me under the umbrella, make me look as if I'm wearing a hat. But hopefully it won't. But I have to say, I'm a little bit nervous about it. But the weather has improved, so hopefully we won't have very much rain in the near future that I have to use it yet. Are you enjoying the changing seasons? If you're like me in the Northern Hemisphere, we're just coming into spring. And if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, you'll be just going into autumn. I know somebody watched from Australia, one of my videos, so I don't know where anybody else is from. So if you let me know in the comments where you're watching from, that would be really interesting for me to find out. Let's move on to our crochet, shall we? I'm starting off with my finished blanket, and here it is. So I've been making the Wildshore blanket, and it's designed by Lucy from Attic 24, and each colour is made in 2 rows, and it's the same stitch throughout. So it's not the most interesting blanket to make, but it's one of those that you can just get on with. Once you know what the pattern is, you can just go backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. It does mean that all the ends end up down one side, but I don't really suppose that matters terribly much. And it is quite a pretty pattern. I've made mine lap blanket size, about 90 centimetres. Well, it was roughly 90 centimetres or just over before the border was added. And I think I just did to the end of week 4 out of 6 on the pattern before I put the border on. And the border is really simple, but I think very effective. So there are about 5 rounds here of single crochet if you're in US terms, double crochet if you're in UK terms, working into the back loop. So you've got I don't know if you can see the ridges going along, a nice feature. And then for the very final border round, it's used the same colour as you've just done your last round of back loop only double crochets. And this time it's a free pattern, so I can tell you this time it's just 1 double crochet, 2 chain, miss a stitch, 1 double crochet, 2 chain, miss a stitch, and you just do that all the way around. So even though we can't see the little holes in the border, it just finishes it off really nicely. And I washed it this morning. I just throw my blankets, because they're made in acrylic yarn. It's a budget yarn. I've used Starcraft Special DK and Wendy to top up the colours that I hadn't got. The Wendy and the Starcraft Special, to me, I can't tell the difference when I've used it. And even a couple of times I started a row in one and finished it off in another, because the colours are the same. So I threw it into the washing machine and put it onto a a cycle that I haven't really used much. It was a rinse cycle. I put some fabric softener in it, and then it spun it within an inch of its life, which I wasn't expecting it to do, but it did. I thought, oh, I hope it comes out in one piece. And then I just throw it into the tumble dryer, and it's just so soft then, because it wasn't soft and squidgy this morning. It was pretty, but it wasn't soft like it is now. So I do like to machine wash my acrylic yarns, and they've never come to any harm. So we'll pop that back over the chair, and I think that's all I need to say about that. It was made with a number 4 crochet hook, size 4, and I did quite enjoy making it, but I'm glad to have finished it. So let's move on to my Beatrix Potter doll, a Toft pattern. I did talk about this in my last episode because I was stuck, and I was asking about how to make the frills on the sleeve, on the arms. So I had shown the head and body. I explained how I'd almost given Beatrix Potter a beard because I'd carried on with the brown yarn going around her chin. Had to undo all that. And then I'd made the arms, and because they're yellow at the top, I needed to work out how to put the frill on the arms. I hadn't used, I don't think I said this, but I hadn't used the pattern it gives you in the actual leaflet for the arms, because that gives you a hand with fingers on. And I remember it was over a year ago now, I panicked and thought, oh, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do the standard arms. And I'd gone to the book, Kerry Lord's book, the Doll Emporium book, and looked up how to do a standard arm, which looks a bit like a spoon. And that's what I'd done. And that just said sew it up at the top. So I'd asked, do I need to hold it that way up to put the frill on? You had to pick up stitches around here, or do I need to hold it that way up to put the frill on? So thank you to Helen, if you're watching, from Mousy Mate podcast, for giving me some advice on what you thought I needed to do. So I then looked at my pattern, and it said you need to attach the arms to the doll before you do anything else. So I sewed the arms on, and I laid it down on the table. And Coco was next to me, and she was showing great interest in that. So I'll put a photo of Coco in here somewhere. And then I turned my back for a second, and she had picked it up and was examining the arms that I'd just sewn on, as she does. So I took a couple of photos of her, and then I thought, no, that's enough now. So off she went. And I looked at them, and I looked again at the pattern to make sure what to do next. And I realised that Coco had spotted that I hadn't finished the arms properly at the top. So I should have added another couple of rows before I'd sewn them together. So I just thought, oh, never mind, I'll unpick. So I started to unpick one of them and realised, because I'd made it over a year previously, that was actually the chain. That's where I'd started the crochet, and it had finished up at that end, and that I couldn't think how to unpick it properly. So I decided I would start again. So I made the arm, and I decided to be brave. It's here somewhere. I decided I would be brave and do the hand and try the hand. So I did, and it's not too bad, is it? So I made another one the same. I've done the top the way it should be done this time. So I made another one exactly the same. I mark every row down, tally chart on my pattern. And it was a different size. It was a different length to this one. And I couldn't work out why. So it was at least a centimetre. One was at least a centimetre longer than the other. And I couldn't work out what I'd done. And I'd finished by this time. I'd sewn up the hands, counted all my rounds. My rounds. And I thought, well, I'll just put it on like that. And I thought, oh, I can't just put it on like that. It looks terrible. So what to do? Make another one. So luckily there was enough yarn for me to make another one. I thought, well, this one surely will match one of the two that I've already made. Actually, it didn't really match either of them. It sort of came out halfway between the two. But I picked the two that were closest together, and I sewed them onto the doll. So there she is with her arms sewn on with the extra bit at the top, And then I had to come and crochet these bits, and I realised, of course, with the hand sewn on, I think I might have tried that way first and then I tried that way, but it doesn't go up or down, it's going across. So I have to remember now that when I do anything like this again, I need to have the hand pointing away from me, otherwise I'm crocheting it inside out. Anyway, I'm more than happy that her arms are almost the same, that she's actually got fingers on her hands. Poor Beatrix Potter. I hope one day she'll get finished, but it's going to take me a very long time if I carry on at this rate, and I'll probably run out of yarn before I've finished. But anyway, so we'll continue with that one another time. So I have another project to replace this blanket here that's finished, because I have to have a blanket on my hook. That's just one of my rules. I seem to feel the need to have a blanket. And quite recently I noticed that Eleonora Tully had designed a nice new blanket. She's the designer behind Coastal Crochet, and this is her Coastal Retreat blanket pattern, and it's made in emu yarn. Now, I've made quite a few of Eleonora's patterns before, and I absolutely love them. I think she's probably my favourite blanket designer. And so I went to my yarn stash to see if I could find any yarn, because one of my rules again this year is not to buy anything more, use what's in the cupboards. One day I might show you what's in my cupboards. I think there's probably enough yarn in there to last the rest of my life. So I went to have a look, and the pattern calls for emu yarn. Well, I didn't have much emu yarn left, but I had 2 of the balls were emu yarn, so I tried to use the photograph to match some of the other colours. And what I always like to do is prepare, this is one of my favourite parts of the blanket crochet, is to get everything ready, to collect all the yarns together, and to make my little thread card to show all the colours. Do you do that if you make a crochet blanket? So here's mine. I find it so useful. Yes, I know I could make it out of a bit of cardboard. I don't need to have one of these fancy cards, but I do love the Emma Ball cards that she does. This one's talking about knitting on the back, but it doesn't matter if it's knitting or crochet as long as it's got holes down and a pretty picture on. It just makes me smile when I see them. And also it's very helpful because down this side I have written the names of the emu colours that are referred to in the pattern, and then down this side I've put the names of the colours that I'm actually using so that I don't get confused when I'm trying to work out which colour's which. And sometimes when you have some colours that are very similar together, it's also very useful to have these samples of the threads. And then I've got my bag of yarn all here ready to go, and this blanket's going to have more vibrant colours in it than this one. This is more muted. I think I'm going to enjoy the vibrant colours more. I just like vibrant colours to work with for some reason. Would you like to hear my crafting plans now? Back in January, before I started my YouTube channel, I made a list of all the things that I thought I'd like to get done this year. So I'll go through in not too much detail some of the things that I've got written down to complete or undertake in 2026. I won't talk about the Christmas things because we can talk about those later. So the first one I wrote down was to use fabric paints on textile art backgrounds. I've got a set of fabric paints. I've never used them yet. I want to use them before they all dry up in the jars. I'd like to learn to do some calligraphy. I bought some calligraphy brush pens last year. I haven't had a go with them apart from the day they came, and that's as far as I got. so I want to use those before they dry up. I would like to knit more items using colour work. I've got a set of drawing inks on in my painting supplies that I would also like to use. I haven't used them at all. I ordered them for a project that never needed them for in the end, and before they dry up I would like to use those. I would like to improve my watercolour painting skills, and I have actually got an art project on the go at the moment, but I'm not going to talk to you about that at the moment because it's not going terribly well and I'm very behind with it. But if ever I catch up, I will tell you what it is. I would like to use freezer paper to learn to print designs onto fabric. I saw a video of it and I want to have a go at it. I ordered the freezer paper immediately and I haven't tried it yet. Do you do that? Do you watch somebody's video and think, oh, even before the end of the video, oh, I need to order that, I need to get that, I want to try that? Or maybe you don't, but I do a lot. I want to improve my video and editing skills, which I am hopefully doing by making these videos. I would like to knit a Stephen West pattern, maybe a scarf or a small shawl. I'm not a shawl wearer, but I have seen some people on YouTube making the most beautiful Stephen West designed shawls and scarves, and I think they look so difficult, but I'd love to have a go. And I've seen the lovely Karen from Stitches and Jacks showing off her Stephen West makes, and they are beautiful. And at this point I need to say a big thank you to Karen. If you're watching, Karen, thank you so much for giving me a mention on your latest podcast. And I know we've had somebody come over from your podcast to have a look. She left me a comment, so thank you, Karen. And you did look beautiful, very radiant in your lovely pink, was it ranunculus that you'd knitted, your sweater, and pink glasses to match. And Karen was feeling very much in the pink, and if you want to know why, then you'll need to watch her podcast if you haven't already watched it, because I'm not going to tell you anymore. I am very interested in researching my family tree, and I use websites online to do it. Very much an armchair researcher. Haven't been to look at anything much, but I would like to depict it some way, and I've got an idea of what I might do, but I'm not going to talk about that today because it might never happen, and if I decide to try it, I'll let you know when. And then I think the other things are Christmassy things. Oh, apart from to knit, I want to learn to knit hats. I've knit hats. I've made hats for my granddaughters, but out of crochet and out of acrylic yarn, which isn't very warm in the winter. So I want to find a go-to hat pattern so that I can make hats for my granddaughters and my grandson, and possibly that I can customise to add some colour work into it. If I find a pattern, a style that fits me, and I've got a book about different colour work patterns that I might want to try and put those into it. So that's what I'd like to do. So those are my plans, and if I only do 6 or 7 of them, I'll feel very pleased with myself. Shall I show you my new books just before we go into the knitting section? The first new book that came, it was last week actually, was a new Toft book. It's a lovely book, and it's fairy tale patterns. So we've got several, I think that one's Little Red Riding Hood, several little dolls to dress and make. And I've seen other people showing this book on their YouTube channels. You might well have already seen it. And there's a picture with lots of the things, lots of the characters on there. There's Jack and the Beanstalk. I think there's going to be Hansel and Gretel in there somewhere, and Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And the Seven Dwarfs have been named differently to the Seven Dwarfs in the Disney store, in the Disney film and the fairy tale book. And there must be a reason why they've got different names, but they have. And there's also, it comes with a patch, a Toft patch. I don't know if you're a collector of Toft patches, crochet crochet pattern Toft patches. That's a tongue twister again. I've got one or two, but I don't do anything with them. And there's also a couple of flyers in here. Talks about another book that's going to come out soon, of animal fables. So that looks good. But there's another flyer that says there's going to be a Toft, for the first official fairy tales crochet along, beginning on the 23rd of March. So I'll have to look out for that. I'm not quite sure where it's going to be, but it'll be somewhere to look out for. So maybe we'll find out more by looking on the Toft website. So that's one of my new books. And my second new book is knitted Moomin socks. I'm not obsessed with Moomins, please don't think I am, but I do like them. And one of my comments last week, or when I'd made Little Moomin, the comment said that they'd never heard of Moomin Troll, and because I hadn't said, had I, that Moomin Troll is a character in a series of children's books by a Finnish author, Tove Jansson. And these patterns in here are designed by several different Finnish knitwear designers. And so there's things like this one called Christmas is Coming. I'm sorry, I'm appearing on the video because my camera, when it can't see my face, changes the light on the video. And oh, that one has got a picture of Sniff. That's Sniff. I know the names of the characters, partly because I read the books as a child and partly because I've been reading them again with my granddaughters recently. Because I have quite a few, well, about 7 or 8, I think. So, and when my granddaughters saw my little Moomin Troll the other day, oh, it's a Moomin Troll. So they liked that, played with it for a little while. So I did say there would be a new cast on with my knitting this week, and so there is. And it is a hat made in colourwork. And the name of the pattern, I wish I had a Scottish accent because it would sound much better with a Scottish accent, but it's called the Buggy Fleur Beanie, and it's by Alison Rendell, and that's the pattern, although I'm not going to do it in that colourway. That's the colourway that I have got, and it's a kit sold in a kit from Lucy Locketland. So the yarn that comes in the kit, or in my kit anyway, is Jamieson's Shetland Spindrift, and we've got 6 colours, I believe. So this colour is Esit, and there's 2 balls of that. There's a ball of gold, chestnut. These colours actually looking quite true to life at the minute. Amber, ivy, and I can't pick up the last one altogether, I'm afraid, because I'm in the middle of using this one, and this is called Peat, and it's a very dark reddy brown. And when I said a new cast on, it's a very new cast on, because I've only done one row. I cast it on and I've done the first row, and I'm using a new needle. I'll put a photo in of it because you can't really see it properly now. I've got my stitches on, but my needle is an Addy, and it is called a unicorn, Addy Unicorn. And I think it was, again, Karen from Stitches and Jacks that inspired me to try doing one of these hat kits, because I think she showed one a few months ago on one of her podcasts. But the needle is an 80 centimetre, 3 millimetre circular needle, and that's what it looks like. And it's very smooth. I thought it was going to be rough, but it says on the packet, the noble spiral structure massages the hands while knitting. I'm not sure if that's completely the case, especially when you're holding it with all the stitches on, but that's what it says. But look what colour this cable is pink. And that made me think of Caroline or her pink the other day as well. So, my goodness, the reason why I've only done one row is because it took me so long to work out the colours. Because I'm not doing the colour that is referred to in the pattern, and it's a paid for pattern, so I can't show you much, but just to say there are 5 colourways in 5 different yarns. I've got the middle yarn, but not in the colourway that's listed there, so I was having to try and use the charts to work out, and the photograph, to try and work out which colour was which. Oh my goodness, because I wanted to list them somewhere, and I have listed them in the pattern. I've said which one I think is yarn A, which one I think is yarn B, and so on to yarn F. And that took me absolutely ages. I bet it took me a good 20 minutes. Well, that's ages, but it seemed like a long time to actually do that and then work out the actual pattern and the charts, because I've never... I can't remember, the one I knitted before Christmas was the curlew hat, and that must have had charts. It must have had charts. Clearly it did. But this just seemed so complicated to me. And then I did the cast on, and then I looked at the first chart and I thought, oh my goodness, it's got dots all over it. What does that mean? And I was searching through the pattern like in a panic. What do the dots mean? Haven't started that round yet. That's okay. I haven't started that round. What do the dots mean? And then I found it. Pearl stitches are indicated by a dot. So not only am I changing colour, it's also going to have a rib around the brim in the 2 different colours, because I think my curlew hat, the brim was all the same colour. Well, this one is doing 3 different colour changes. There will be 3 different coloured yarns used just in the brim alone. So once I'd worked it out, I thought, right, calm down. You can do this. Let's do it. I think if I wasn't making these videos and I hadn't said I would have a new cast on, I may well have put this away and thought, oh, I won't be able to do it. I can't do it. I can't work it out. But I made myself work it out because I wanted to try and I want to do it. So I think I'm already being pushed out of my comfort zone. But that's probably not a bad thing, is it? So I will finish my podcast today with a few photos of what I saw in the garden centre, and hopefully I will see you next time. Take care. Bye for now.